Good Wednesday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty to talk about today. A little later in the show, Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily will be along. We'll talk plenty about the Browns, what they look to do maybe in the draft, what they look to do in free agency. And we begin by talking Browns. We'll also talk a little bit of Cavs with Hayden Grove, reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Baker Mayfield on Instagram today announcing that he will be off of social media for the foreseeable future. Got to do what's best to focus on me, my family, and loved ones. Appreciate the support. Time to get right. And again, Baker Mayfield announcing that he will be off of social media on social media. Let's welcome in Hayden Grove. And Hayden, social media is a tough place to be in normal circumstances after the year Baker Mayfield had. I completely get it, and it's probably the right move for his sanity and those around him sanity as well.
Yeah, I think it is. The world that we live in is pretty we're all pretty accessible. Public figures, people who, have public jobs are accessible, and Baker Mayfield's no exception. He's human. He reads everything not everything, but he reads things that are, said about him, and he reads tweets and he reads comments, and it's got to affect his psyche. I'm sure it affected his psyche all year long. I don't think he was the confident version of himself that we were obviously hoping to see. So, maybe a little bit of that was injury. Maybe a little bit of that was just everything that was going on. But I think it's a good idea for Baker. I think that, social media, as much as I preach, and I work in social media, as much as I preach having tough skin and having, having the ability to let things bounce off you. At some point you're a human, and it can only, it can permeate. So the opinions of us in the media don't matter. The opinions of, fans don't matter. To a point. All that matters is like he said, the close people around him and his teammates and the Browns front office. So he doesn't need to be listening to anybody else, and he doesn't need to be thinking about anything else other than getting his mind, in a great place, in a good, happy place, and getting his shoulder in a very healthy and painless place.
And you know what? If he's able to do that and is able to replicate what he did the second half of last season, all Browns fans will forget about what happened in 2021. So let's hope Baker Mayfield's able to get back to that version of him. All right, some news from the front office, and it's good news without question, is one of the Browns front office, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, was in fact hired to be the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, 4-year, $12 million deal. And the Browns developed a minority general manager, so there is league benefits that go with that. They get a third-round compensatory pick this year and next year because their front office developed somebody who became a general manager that was a minority. But the bottom line is it's always good when other teams want your front office. It means you're doing something right. People don't go out and try to hire people from organizations that aren't viewed as doing things the right way and putting together things the right way. So points to Andrew Berry and the Browns front office. They now have a guy there is an Andrew Berry front office tree that is growing in the NFL now.
Yeah, that's exciting. It definitely points to where the Browns are as a franchise. It points to the decisions they made, and not only in the front office, but, within the coaching staff and all that. And he definitely deserves that opportunity up there in Minnesota. And it's going to be interesting now that you have a Minnesota head coach in Cleveland and a Cleveland GM in Minnesota. Could be some ties there, but I'm very happy for him, and I'm happy that he gets the opportunity to kind of take the Vikings in a new direction. And it's a great thing for the Browns, as I've seen on social media and I've seen elsewhere, where fans are saying, well, when's the last time somebody was, poached from the Browns front office to another front office? It's been a while. So I think it speaks to to where the Browns are at, to where they're, respected, and to how they're developing the people in the building and the culture in the room and all of that good stuff. I think it's definitely a sign of things going in the right direction.
There's also a couple other things ancillary that go with it, but it bears talking about. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah knows exactly what the front office thinks of the quarterback. He's part of those decisions. He knows more so than you and I do exactly how banged up and how hurt Baker Mayfield was. So, and there's obviously a comfort level between Andrew Berry and Kwesi. So people are immediately connecting the dots with Kirk Cousins. It may not be Kirk Cousins, but the Vikings are an organization that Kevin Stefanski obviously knows well from his time there as well. So it will be interesting, and it bears watching. If the Browns and the Vikings do get together and do some deals here.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, you have to watch. I mean, that's something that comes with the territory, obviously, with Kevin Stefanski and Kwesi, and it just makes sense. When you know so much about another organization and you're close with another organization, I think it just makes sense to talk, to communicate, to throw ideas back and forth, and try to better your football team in both the Browns case and the Vikings case. So I don't know about Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield. I mean, obviously there's going to be speculation there given the relationship between the two organizations and the quarterback direction maybe the two franchises are headed in, but I'm more so looking forward to seeing how they can improve the Browns and the Vikings in other ways, maybe together, using, there's going to be, at some point, I would assume that there's going to be some sort of, trade or something there to help each other out. So, and it may not be the last. There are other front office members of the Browns interviewing around the league, so it may not be the last for the Browns at this point.
All right, let's have a little fun with this. Myles Garrett, Instagram photo with no shirt on. And so there's a look at Myles Garrett. And a couple of days later, Myles shares with us that he gets this. The NFL selects him for a random PES test that needs to be completed tomorrow morning. And so Myles responds to this with, they need a punch card system rewarding on the drug test. Every 10 negative tests, give us Bitcoin pay for a vacation or something. Hayden, you get the idea? The NFL may be telling Myles, don't pose with your shirt off. We don't want to embarrass the rest of the league, but it seems like every time he posts a shirtless thing, he gets a PED or PES test.
I think Myles is right, that you gotta get some sort of system going, the punch card system. I like that where you get 10 good tests and then you get a free no test or something like that. I like that. I don't think they're going to be paying for any Bitcoin or any vacations anytime soon, but I like that idea. Yeah, I mean, I remember Odell back in when I think 2019 would tell me about when he was getting tested all the time for no reason, or after he would have a good game. So it seems to be a common theme in the NFL for these guys to get tested when they're showing that they're amongst the league's elite in one way or another, be it just by body or by performance or whatnot.
Hayden Grove from cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside and take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will continue to talk Browns. We head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, Sports for CLE. We'll be right back talking Browns with Hayden Grove.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions, lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE on a snowy Wednesday afternoon. Time to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the quarterback position for the Browns in 2022.
Huntley from Baltimore is a very viable option, and we're not even talking about him for some reason. He's going to be cheap. Why is he not being talked about in Cleveland? Thank you.
All right, he's referring to Tyler Huntley. First of all, he's a restricted free agent, so the Ravens can match anything that is thrown at him. He is the property of the Ravens as long as the Ravens want him and are willing to pay him. Secondly, in order to have Tyler Huntley as your quarterback, you have to have the Ravens' offensive system and somebody to run it. So you'd completely be redoing the offensive system. The league will eventually react and deal with Huntley, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a really good quarterback. He very well may be, but that's not a guy that I'm ready to move on from Baker Mayfield to at this point. And I think he played really well, and I give the Ravens a lot of credit to find somebody who is similar enough to run the offense they had with Lamar Jackson. I just don't think Tyler Huntley works in Cleveland at this point because of the offense they run.
Yeah, I would say that with Tyler Huntley, I think that he's a great option for Lamar. He's a great backup option for Lamar Jackson. I think he did a phenomenal job. That being said, he is a restricted free agent, so if I'm Baltimore, I wouldn't move on from him at all. I would keep him right exactly where he is. I think it's a perfect fit for him in Baltimore. So Tyler Huntley should stay exactly where he is in Baltimore, and I think Baltimore would be foolish to let him go. I don't know if the Browns would have to change their entire offensive system, but they would certainly have to do some different things. And, I just don't know if the money is really worth the squeeze in terms of, trying to get to outpay Baltimore, whatever they're going to want for him. So I love the idea. I love the idea of Tyler Huntley. At times, I think he's a better thrower than Lamar. At times, I think he's, just as elusive. But I think that it would be really, really hard pressed to get Tyler Huntley out of Baltimore.
Yeah, the other thing is the body of work with Tyler Huntley has been pretty short. So let's see it. But again, I credit Baltimore for finding another guy that can run the offense similar enough to Lamar Jackson. They did a nice job of identifying Tyler Huntley. All right, let's look at this one from ESPN.com, and it's about the Browns' road to the Super Bowl. And so you see they go through Garrett and Chubb and Ward, but they say Cleveland's first Super Bowl appearance is blocked by elite quarterbacks. They'll have to go to Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. And I get where they're going with this, but you can say that about getting to the Super Bowl at any time. Before it was, that there was Brett Favre or John Elway. There's always really good quarterbacks. Now, it's fair to say there's a number of them in the AFC, but a really good defense and a quality quarterback usually gets that done.
Yeah, not only a really good defense, but a really good run game. I mean, you look at Tennessee, I think they had every opportunity to win that game. Ryan Tannehill just really struggled, and there were some bad breaks. And I think Tennessee is kind of the Browns' model for winning the Super Bowl. I think that, and I know Baker Mayfield can and definitely should play as well, if not better than Ryan Tannehill. So, I mean, if you're talking about the Titans making the Super Bowl, I think you could talk about the Browns making the Super Bowl. They do it running defense and Baker Mayfield or Ryan Tannehill being efficient. You don't need Baker Mayfield to take over the offense. That's not how this offense is built. Even if, Kirk Cousins comes in or somebody else, which I don't think is likely, but even if that happens, you're still going to be based on the run game and your defense. I mean, that's the way the Browns are built. So I think you can follow Tennessee's model and just certainly do it that way. You can follow the 49ers model. They run the ball well with Deebo Samuel and Jimmy G is efficient in the pass game, and they have a good defense. So there's definitely a model to get through the postseason. and gets the Super Bowl without having quote unquote elite quarterback play. And I think those are the kind of three teams, the Browns, the 49ers, and the Titans are the three teams to kind of look at when you're talking about, really using the run game and defense to get to that point.
My kind of thought with quarterback play is there will come times in a game and during a season when the quarterback has to make plays, and it particularly late in games. And that's, I think you and I have talked about this. That's the one thing I want to see from Baker Mayfield. I want to see Baker Mayfield in the fourth quarter with the game on the line, take the Browns on some game-winning drives. If he does that, I think he's the guy that can do what the Browns need him to do.
Yeah, it seemed like this year he was snake bitten. I mean, the first game against the Chiefs, he had the trip and the interception, and then just there were some other games where it didn't work out for him. So you're right. I think that's a big part of his game that needs to kind of find itself. Last year we saw with Cincinnati, where he came back and had a huge drive and they won that game. The part of the problem too, I believe, is that I don't think Kevin Stefanski's offense is meant for comebacks. They don't score in the fourth quarter regardless, whether they need to or not. They're like the worst in the league in scoring in the fourth quarter. In the second half, their MO, their model is to run up to get up in the first half and then kind of play solid defense and hold them down in the second half. And at times they didn't do that well enough last year. So they got to do a little more offensively, even outside of Baker Mayfield, maybe be a little more aggressive in their play calling, be a little more aggressive in their scheme to make things happen towards the end of the game, because last year they did not do a good enough job. And I think Baker Mayfield would admit that he wasn't, his normal self in the fourth quarter either.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think you're absolutely right. We're not saying anything that Baker Mayfield wouldn't agree with. All right, let's take a look at a couple mock drafts. Obviously, wide receiver is a position that the Browns need to upgrade. Draft is one way they could potentially do it. So Ryan Wilson, one of the guys that does mock drafts for CBSSports.com, has the Browns taking wide receiver Garrett Wilson, who he grades as the third best positionally at wide receiver. And you see the rationale behind it. Wilson, one of the most dynamic players in college football, will give Mayfield another downfield option now that Odell Beckham Jr. Is in L.A. But so they mock Ryan Wilson to the Browns. Garrett Wilson does. Ryan Wilson is doing the mock draft. And when you look at Hayden, I know that a lot of Browns fans are familiar with Garrett Wilson because he plays for Ohio State. It would seem if he's there, that would be a pretty good fit.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great fit. I think third is low in terms of wide receivers in this draft. I think he's far and away the number one. Jameson Williams has an ACL. Drake London is up there. Chris Olave, I don't think is better than Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson has a tremendous catch radius. I think he's kind of as athletic as it gets. He's not as tall, but he's fast. He's a great route runner. He does every little thing well. I think he'd be great outside and in the slot. You could put him in both spots. So I think Garrett Wilson's tremendous. That would be a home run for the Browns. I mean, that would be an absolute home run. You never know with the draft prospect, right? There's always issues and things come up, and hopefully you pick the right guy. But I mean, to pick Garrett Wilson at 13 with just his polish, with what he did at Ohio State, with his size, with his athleticism, with his ability to catch the ball wherever it's thrown. I mean, I think that would be an absolute home run for the Browns, and I think they would probably still have to go get another receiver after that.
Yeah, I'm with you. They need one, maybe even two more. I think they need two or three for that receiver room. All right, another CBSSports.com mock draft guy is Chris Trapasso, and Trapasso has Browns taking another wide receiver, Treylon Burks, big-bodied wide receiver, dominates in contested catch scenarios. He's a horse in the open field. The Browns need a true number one. The other mock draft that I've seen with Treylon Burks, who I'm not as familiar with, plays for Arkansas, they said he was a linebacker built like Deebo Samuel, and if that's the case, I'm in on him as well. But again, if I gave you the pick of those two, both of them sound very intriguing. Do you have one over the other that you think would be a better fit for the Browns?
I mean, Treylon Burks, it's just maybe this is a little biased because obviously we're here in Ohio and we know Garrett Wilson. I've watched Garrett Wilson since he was at Lake Travis High School, same high school as Baker Mayfield, by the way. And I was tremendously blown away. Treylon Burks, you're right, 6'3", 225. I mean, that's a linebacker. You're right. That's a linebacker playing wide receiver, and he's got the skills to do it. So, I mean, in an ideal world, you could have both, where you'd have Garrett Wilson kind of the skinnier, slender, more athletic, more deceptive, if you want to call him that, wide receiver. Whereas you got a bigger body in Treylon Burks. I would go with the homer pick just because I know Garrett Wilson and I've seen him play, in person many, many times. I got to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen or ever watched Treylon Burks, in over multiple games. I've definitely tuned into Arkansas, but I just know more about Garrett Wilson, but that's what the Browns front office is for. They have scouts that watch these guys, and maybe it's not Garrett Wilson. Maybe the pick is Treylon Burks. Maybe the pick is Jameson Williams, even with the knee injury. Maybe it is Drake London. So that's why they get paid to do their jobs, and we get paid to do ours. And, part of my job is to watch Ohio State and cover Ohio State, and I've done it throughout Garrett Wilson's career, and I've loved what I've seen. So I would go with Garrett Wilson.
And to be fair, that's the importance of these next several months, including the combine. The Browns need to figure out which one of those is a true elite number one, and then try to add them to the receiving room, because that's what needs to be fixed. They need an upgrade in the receiving room to help Baker Mayfield or whomever is playing quarterback. Hayden Grove and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we look at how Pro Football Focus has graded the 2020 Browns draft currently. Back when it happened, it was an A+. Let's see what they say now. Plus some early breakout candidates. We'll take a look at who folks think could be breaking out for the Browns in 2022. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. We're still talking Browns. Stay with Hayden Grove and I.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Hayden Grove from the Cleveland Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, and I continue talking Browns football. Time to take a look at Pro Football Focus's regarding the 2020 NFL Draft. So when it happened, it was graded as an A+, now an A- as a refresher. Jedrick Wills, 10th overall pick. Grant Delpit, who missed the entire rookie year, was in the second round. Elliott and Phillips in the third. Bryant in the fourth. Harris and Donovan Peoples-Jones in the sixth. And they say Elliott feels like the miss. Rest are good or still promising. Wills was very solid as a young starting tackle. Bryant was good, just buried a deep tight end chart. And Peoples-Jones started after the Odell trade. So still looking good. And Hayden, that's fair. The one thing that I am a little concerned about is Jedrick Wills. And I know he was banged up and he was probably never right. He tried to play through that injury and you know, offensive lineman on one leg, you know, if you're less than 100% and you're playing a tackle position, especially a banged up ankle, that's got to be rough.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about Jed. I think, you know, his second year his second year, just a ton of bad luck. He was battling injury. I don't think he was ever 100%, but I think this may not be fair, but I think a good mark of an offensive tackle is that you don't notice him, right? You don't notice a guy getting beat all the time. Joe Thomas was kind of the epitome of that, never getting noticed for getting beat. So I think Jed Wills, there were a lot of games where you didn't notice him, where you didn't notice that he was, a problem, which is a good thing. So I think, next year, third year, he'll take a step. Hopefully he can stay healthy. The rest of the draft, you're right. I think it looks great. I wouldn't give up on Jordan Elliott yet either. I mean, yes, a third rounder, but a guy that, has been blocked by some pretty good defensive tackles. Sheldon Richardson a couple of years ago. This year, Malik McDowell, Malik Jackson. Next year might be his opportunity. You look at Harrison Bryant has been great in the tight end room. Yes, definitely, backed up in that room with a ton of talent and Njoku and Hooper. Nick Harris might have to come along here soon. I mean, we're talking about J.C. Tretter getting up there. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been great. So, for a 7th round pick, especially, has been great. So yeah, I would say an A- is fair. I'd say an A- is very fair.
All right, so let's take a look. Pro Football Focus with early breakout candidates, all 32 teams for next season, and for the Browns, Grant Delpit, and they say he's one of the steals of the 2020 draft, going to the middle of round 2. Took on the starting spot week 11, 4th best coverage grade among safeties from that point on. The other thing that I think you saw with him was the versatility that they really liked. A guy that they blitzed some, and he seemed to be very comfortable doing a number of different things. So I get why they think Grant Delpit could be on the verge of a breakout season in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, he really, he coming off that Achilles injury, we didn't know what he was going to be. It was pretty much his rookie year last year, having not played, and came out and played well, earned a spot. And, I think this year with Ronnie Harrison out, I think he's going to continue, or likely out. I think he's going to continue to, evolve and ascend and play next to John Johnson, who provides him a lot of great experience. So, yeah, Grant Delpit, I think is going to be fantastic. I think it was a great pick when it happened. It was just unfortunate that he had the Achilles injury. But, I'm looking forward to seeing him and more of, Jacob Phillips, who also was on that list before in the draft of 2020. So I'll looking forward to seeing all those guys continue to improve. I think that was a really good class they had.
All right, so ESPN.com is ranking the rookie classes from this past draft, 2021. They ranked the Patriots number 1 overall, Texans 2, Chiefs 3, Raiders 4, and the Browns ranked number 5 overall. First 2 selections stepped up immediately, contributed Newsome, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. You see they mentioned Schwartz and Felton on offense, and Felton also on his special teams. Nice young cornerback tandem to build around with Ward and Denzel Ward and Newsome. You know what? They did a nice job. I mean, Owusu-Koramoah, they say, is the best value pick. You can call him a value pick. He was a steal where they got him. I love their first 2 picks, and I think those are going to be cornerstone kind of guys. You mentioned the big thing about Jedrick Wills and tackles is not noticing them. With cornerbacks, they just didn't throw against Greg Newsome, and that shows you a lot of respect. Offensive coordinators and head coaches aren't kind when game planning. If they don't throw your way, there's a reason, and it's because you're doing your job. Yeah,
I mean, I think with Greg Newsome and JOK, I mean, that's as good of a 1-2 punch in the first 2 rounds as you can get. I mean, Greg Newsome was a fantastic starting corner his first year in terms of the low rookie level, and JOK was probably the best linebacker on the Browns team. So I think with those two, absolutely. Schwartz is a little underwhelming for me. I know that he had some concussion issues. I would like to see a little more of him to break out next year. Tommy Togiai late, James Hudson late. Those guys are still kind of out in the water. And Demetric Felton came on really strong in training camp. I want to see more from him next year too. So not every class is going to have 7-8 guys that are going to, come in and contribute. So I really like what the Browns did. It was top heavy, and that's really what they needed at that point.
Yeah, so we've looked at the last two classes that the Browns have had drafting, and we've already kind of delineated how good they are. Clearly, Browns need to upgrade the wide receiver position. They need probably to upgrade defensive tackle and edge rusher. How much confidence do you have in Andrew Berry in this front office based on the first two drafts that you've seen?
I have a lot of confidence. I think that, this isn't a situation where it's a total rebuild. I mean, you can see the players the Browns need, right? You can see what their weaknesses are. You can see where they're going to look. So I have confidence that Andrew Berry is going to do everything in his power to, find the best spots or the best talent, the best fits. And, even if they don't, even if they don't have a fit per se, they're going to find the best talent. So I think the Browns at number 13 are going to go grab a really good receiver. I have faith in him to do that. I have faith in him to go get, more defensive tackles if that's the case, if they need be. That's going to be something they definitely have to look for in the offseason. So I think that's my big 1 and 2 right now is wide receiver and defensive tackle. And I have Andrew Berry. I think he has the ability to get the job done and done well.
Yeah, I agree. And the first two drafts that he's had should give Browns fans the confidence that he'll be able to identify areas to upgrade, and then he moves and goes and does it. Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, we're going to shift our attention to the Cavaliers. Cavs getting ready to play the Bucks. Cavs just a game and a half out of first place in the Eastern Conference, playing really well. We are talking Cavs with Hayden Grove when Sports4CLE returns. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thanks for buying a fishing license. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Every dollar protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Visit takemefishing.org.
We switch our attention to the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. Currently fifth spot, but just game and a half out of the top spot in the Eastern Conference. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the point guard, Darius Garland.
Hey, is it too early to compare Darius Garland to Mark Price? And why is it Mark Price in the Hall of Fame? Thanks.
All right, Hayden, no, it's not too early. I think Darius Garland is an ascending point guard, a young guy who has probably earned the right to be an all-star this year. Might not happen just because that is a loaded position. especially in the East, but he will be an all-star. Little bit different player, but he's a heck of a point guard. And Mark Price was a little slighter. I think Darius, when we looked it up, he's about 20 pounds heavier than Mark, a little more physical. Mark was probably a little bit better three-point shooter. That part of the game is coming for Garland. It's not too early because I think this guy's going to be one of the best point guards in the Eastern Conference for a long time and in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think it's too early. Mark Price definitely did some great things for the Cavaliers, and I think Darius Garland's, definitely getting to that point where he's going to start doing some great things for the Cavaliers, and if he hasn't already, and he kind of has with what they've done this year. So I'm really impressed with Darius Garland. I think that, I think the game is very different than it was when Mark Price played, and I'm not saying that's, it's a bad thing per se. Players just play differently. I think Darius is definitely taking a step in the right direction, shooting the ball really, really well. More importantly, though, just taking command of the offense, finding other guys, calling the plays, getting in the right spots, getting people in the right spots. Just he has a command. He's the captain of the unit. He's the guy that the Cavaliers want to build around right now. Him and Evan Mobley, and maybe a little bit of Jared Allen too. So, I certainly agree that Darius Garland could soon enter the conversation of Mark Price. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, and as to why Mark Price isn't in the Hall of Fame, he had the misfortune of playing against, Michael Jordan's Bulls, Isaiah Thomas's Pistons. It was, he was in Cleveland where they couldn't quite get over the hump of those two. It was either Michael Jordan and the Bulls or the Pistons that kind of were blocking the way. So Clevelanders know a little bit more about how good of a point guard Mark Price was than the rest of the country. We mentioned Darius Garland. Here's an interesting one. This one from ESPN Stats and Info. Fifth straight game with 10 assists Monday night that ties LeBron James back in 17 and 18, longest streak by any Cavs player over the last 10 seasons. And the thing that really impresses me about Garland, Hayden, he didn't shoot the ball terribly well in that game. But he made some big shots. Wasn't afraid to shoot, still was taking the shot because the defense was forcing him to. And again, that's the sign of a young all-star that understands there's going to be times where he just needs to shoot it.
Yeah, I mean, he hit a shot late in the game, a big three late in the game. But, as for the assists, like I said, he has command of the offense. I can't remember, Kyrie Irving, yes. Kyrie Irving certainly had command of the offense for the Cavaliers, but he was a score-first guy. He was the main focal point of their offense, and that was fair. I mean, when Kyrie played between the LeBron eras, there wasn't much else. There wasn't much else around him. So, I remember he and Dion obviously had some tussles as to who was going to shoot, but Kyrie was more of a score-first guy. I think Darius does a good job of scoring and being able to dish out the assists. So it doesn't surprise me that he's the first guy since LeBron to have 10 or 5 straight games of 10 assists. I don't think that was ever Kyrie's game, but I'm excited that like I said, he's got command of the offense and he can now dish the ball to some really, really good and talented players around him. Evan Mobley's been great. Jared Allen's been great, and I think you're starting to see the come up of guys like Isaac Okoro, Larry Markkinen, and hopefully he can come back from his injury soon. But it's been a great run to see Darius Garland continue to ascend. Definitely the story of the season for me.
All right, when you look at it, you mentioned Larry Markkinen, that high ankle sprain. Not sure when he's gonna be able to go again. Jared Allen, illness, not COVID related, has missed a couple of games. Who are some guys that need to step up and kind of fill in while these guys are down? That's the amazing thing about this team. This team's really young, and they've had a lot of adversity already, and still just a game and a half out of first in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys. I mean, that's the thing with this team. It's pretty deep. I mean, you got a lot of options. Lamar Stevens has stepped up to where he's, been productive at spots. He might have to step up. Dean Wade has been productive at spots. Kevin Love had 20 points the other night. I think he was 8 of 16 from 3. I mean, just knocking down 3-pointers. That's what they need from him. So guys like that are going to have to step up, right? Rajon Rondo is going to have to step up as kind of the backup point guard without Ricky Rubio in there. So, I would say that, it's Jetty Osman is kind of taking a step backwards. He needs to kind of reignite and refine himself. But that's the that's how it goes in the NBA. Injuries happen, and you got to have guys step up.
Fair enough. All right. I'm going to ask you this. This was a viewer that tweeted this to us a couple days ago, and I'm going to ask it again. We asked it of Chris Fedor. Where do you see the Cavs finishing in the Eastern Conference? Currently 29-19 in 5th place, game and a half out of 1st place. So where do you see him finishing? What do you see the ceiling and the floor of it when you look at how the Cavs shake out in the East?
Where do I see the Cavs finishing? Man, that's tough. The hard part of their schedule is done. I mean, I think they make the playoffs. I don't think there's any doubt. I could see them anywhere between the 4th and the 7th seed. I can see them 4, 5, 6, or 7. I don't know if they'll crack the top 3. I think there are some elite teams up there. But I can certainly see them making the 4 seed, which is pretty remarkable given what they were supposed to do coming into the year. So their floor is 8. I don't think they're going to be in play. I don't think they're going to be in a play-in game. I don't think they're going to be in a situation where they don't make the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be around 4 to 7, anywhere from 4 to 7, and 8 would be the basement for them.
Yeah, that's kind of where I had them. Chris thought they could potentially, because of what you mentioned, Chris Fedor had said he wouldn't be surprised if they get the 1 seed just based on what's ahead of them and what's ahead of the other teams. So that did surprise me, but Chris knows them as well as anybody. Hayden Grove, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Hayden Grove from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Thanks, Hayden.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dave. Have a great night.
All right, Hayden Grove, make sure you read him. Pages of the Plain Dealer as well as on cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily will join us. We head back to the Browns. We'll talk some Browns with Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine and too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. We turn our attention back to the Cleveland Browns, and we welcome in Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily. First time joining us on Sports for CLE. Eddie, appreciate the time and the insight. Let's start. Jarvis Landry, a guy that has a big salary due him next year, not big cap hit if they move on from him. Do you think Jarvis is back? And if not, where do you see him potentially landing?
Yeah, thanks for having me first and foremost. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to the Browns. Speaking of Jarvis Landry, I'm actually working on an article about 6 landing spots for him if the Browns do move on. As you said, it's not a big cap hit if they do. it is a big cap hit if he does come back, unless they restructure. And as of that, I do not see him coming back. And that pains me. And for everyone that's going to yell at me after hearing this, that pains me. It's not that I want him gone. It doesn't make much business sense.
Yeah, and they really do need to remake that wide receiver room. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of upgrades. Where do you think a most likely landing spot is for him? You don't have to give me all 6 if you don't want to. Yeah, we can tell you, you'll have that on Dog Pound Daily.
Yeah, there's at least 6 that I thought of. I'm just going with 6. I could probably fit a few more. One place that intrigues me is either Philadelphia or New England. I think both of those could be good options. I think for Jarvis, it would be good if he went to New England. He gets a young quarterback in Mac Jones. He gets to be in the Belichick system. He won't obviously get the 15 or 16 plus $1 million that he would, if he came back with the Browns. But I think New England or Philly is an interesting landing spot.
Fair enough. All right. Now the Browns need to upgrade the wide receiver position. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I know you have written an article for affordable options. So you list DJ Chark, Cedric Wilson, Christian Kirk, Juju Smith-Schuster. Who do you like out of that? Who do you think makes the most sense as far as for the Browns? Which of those affordable options do you like the most?
The one I like the most is actually Cedric Wilson. But if I had to pick of all 4 of these, I'd actually pick Juju Smith-Schuster. As much as, Browns fans have probably hated him over the past few years. Last year, he got the Browns, fired up, I guess, for the playoff game. They're just, the gray logo to me. The Browns is the Browns. He did all the Corvette dancing, and then the Browns Corvette danced him out of the playoffs. But I would go with him. He's a big body that fits the fantasy system perfectly. He's almost the perfect replacement for Jarvis Landry, should they part ways, because he's able to separate a little bit more. And as we've seen this year, separation is what killed the Browns wide receivers. It had none. So Juju of that list makes the most sense to me.
What do you like about, you mentioned Cedric Wilson. What do you like about him, and how do you think he fits into Kevin Stefanski's system?
I like that he has speed, something that the Browns receivers lack. Most everything that we talk about from now until the Browns sign guys or draft guys is going to be about speed and separation. He has a bunch of speed, and he's proven that he can step up in a big-time offense and a high-octane offense with Dallas. Michael Gallup missed most of the year. He stepped in admirably for him, especially with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper on either side of him. He really stepped up and was that viable third option, and he can be, I don't know if he's a number 1 for the Browns, but he could be a number 2.
How many wide receivers do you think the Browns need to add? I mean, it can't be just one. It's got to be a reasonably high draft pick, and I would think maybe a later pick and a free agent probably.
Yeah, so if Jarvis Landry does not come back, the only 2 receivers on the current roster that I can see coming back are Anthony Schwartz, the rookie that played this year, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, who'll be entering his 3rd year next year. So I would say at least 3 or 4, and that's going to come, like you said, in the draft and free agency. There's plenty of free agent depth this year. There's a lot of draft depth as well. I mean, obviously, you'd like a guy like Devontae Adams, but he's probably not coming to Cleveland. I would love a Michael Gallup if he can recover from his ACL injury. Chris Godwin's another guy I love if he can also recover, and he doesn't want a huge amount of money. But Andrew Berry's smart, and he's going to need to do, I guess, the cheap route of this, because last year the Browns had almost $31 million in just 2 receivers, and one is now going to play for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and the other, his future's up in the air, and that's OBJ and Jarvis Landry. In the draft, hopefully it's someone like a Garrett Wilson or Treylon Burks. Like I said, there's plenty of draft depth this year. So I would say 3, 4 receivers, maybe even possibly 5 just to take into training camp.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, another area that I know you have written about, 5 kickers that should be on the Browns' radar. Again, all these articles, Dog Pound Daily, where Eddie writes for. Let's go through them. Matt Gay, Dustin Hopkins, Joey Sly, Nick Folk, and Kung Ho Koo from the Atlanta Falcons. Who of these do you think fits best? Who do you like the most?
Obviously, it's going to depend on weather, and some of these guys have not kicked in bad Cleveland weather or bad, AFC North weather. But I'm going to go with Koo, and he was number one on that list, and that's who I think is number one that they should target. He has a big booming leg. He's very accurate from 50 plus, something the Browns have not seen in quite some time. I guess I sort of saw it with Chase McLaughlin earlier this year, and then that went downhill fast. But he's one guy that I like. Matt Gay would be awesome too, but I don't see him leaving. He's a restricted free agent. I'm assuming the Rams will do what they can to keep him, being that he's been masterful in the playoffs, just booting balls through the uprights. But Younghoe Koo, I would love to have him there. He's a strong leg. He's a young guy, sort of a journeyman, but not really. Had some tryouts here and there and had success in Atlanta, but he's the guy I would go for if I was Andrew Berry.
And that is definitely an area that you can't argue the kicking game was not good enough for the Browns in 2021. All right. You also did final grades for the 2021 season for the Browns in those three areas, the three teams, if you will. So special teams, you gave a C+ to. Take us through that grade and how you arrived at a C+ for the special teams.
Yeah, so the article you're referring to is the final grades of the regular season finale against the Bengals. So they, the game meant nothing to anyone. It was just, I guess, a moment of pride for some guys and a chance to get some incentives. The Bengals didn't have their starters, but still the kicking game was okay, but the return game was abysmal as it was most of the season. And that's, in today's NFL, you have to be good in all three phases of the game. And as we saw last weekend with the Packers and 49ers, the Packers weren't good in all three phases, and the special teams cost them. So that's going to be something that is going to be looked at this year. Return men. Felton did a good job early, but then just pandered off. And like we just talked about, the kicking needs to upgrade tremendously. There's a lot of games that momentum was swung by the kicker, and games that we could have, really put a clamp on with if we had a solid kicker in return game.
All right, defense for that, you give them an A, offense B. How did you arrive at those and areas of concern there, if you will?
So the defense was tremendous most of the year, and that was no different against Cincinnati. They were tremendous against them the first time with the fully loaded roster, Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Boyd. Most of those guys, if not all of them, did not play. Garrett got his 16th sack of the year. Clowney got another sack and got himself some extra money in his payday. The secondary was great. It was just a great performance overall for them. The second time this year they held the Bengals to 16 points, which is incredible, being that the Bengals have such a high octane offense and are a win away from going to the Super Bowl against a team that they've already beaten this year due to their offense. So that's why I gave him that grade. And for the offense, it was just, Case Keenum did what he was supposed to. Dearness Johnson, for whatever reason, ran more than Nick Chubb, but he did it well. Chubb had the big run late in the fourth quarter randomly when he came back in. So it's really all you could ask for in that game. Some guys were maybe playing as a tryout to see if they're coming back next year. And other guys, might be their last game in Cleveland. And for other guys like a Myles Garrett, that's just, hey, let's add to the stat sheet and add to the record books.
Fair enough. Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll continue talking Browns. We'll look into Baker Mayfield against the media. Plus, we'll take a look at some landing spots if the Browns decide to move on from Baker Mayfield. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily and I continue talking Browns. So Eddie, earlier today, Baker Mayfield announced on Instagram he is getting off media. There have been some not so healthy exchanges between Baker and some of the media members. Just your thoughts, Baker and the media, how it's played out here since the season has ended, really.
So it's Baker in the media and Baker in social media, and it's two different things, but at the same time the same. And before I get fully into Baker, I just want to let all Browns fans that are listening to this know, and I try and say this on Twitter. You can follow me at KingOrdered15, and I say this all the time. Social media is not real; it's an echo chamber, and a lot of people don't understand that. They think that for some reason that Twitter can drive away Baker Mayfield or drive away pending free agents, which that just doesn't make sense to me. It's social media. It doesn't mean that much. Every fan base has some sort of toxicity to it. But as for Baker, he's a guy that thrives on being doubted and proving people wrong. And the media, it's not that they're bashing on Baker. It's not that they hate Baker. And for the record, I love Baker. If he's under center in 2022, great. If he's not, that's too bad for him and for us, if potentially. But he has this war of words with the media all the time. At first, he doesn't care about it, and then he does care what they say. And then at the beginning of the season, if you remember, he had the hype video with everyone talking badly about him and how it was a fluke season in 2020. In 2021, he'd come back down to earth. And ironically, that is the case that happened. But, you have to factor in he was playing with basically one arm for the whole season. I don't understand why he said he was leaving social media and then unfollowed Dustin Fox later and then liked one of his tweets. And then a day or two later was like, yeah, I'm out for social media for now. Okay, dude, you're only saying that to garner attention. And I get it. You want something to fuel you, but I'd much rather him concern himself with rehabbing his shoulder. And if he brings it back in 2022, hopefully we get the 12-game stretch of 2020 for the whole season.
Yeah, and again, I'm not somebody that roots against anybody. And if that helps motivate him, whatever he needs to do, I get it. You know what? If he's back to that 12-game stretch, Browns fans are thrilled because the team's going to do well. Now, we're not saying the Browns are going to move on from Baker Mayfield. Let's put that out there. If they were, I know you have written an article, some spots that would make sense as potential landing spots for Baker Mayfield. And again, he's a guy that he's going to get a chance. He's a former number 1 overall pick. If he's not playing quarterback for the Browns, somebody will have them in his camp and give him a chance to play quarterback in the NFL.
Sure, and I did write about that beginning of this month, actually, and that did a lot of traction, and a lot of people saw that, and I got a lot of feedback on social media, which, again, isn't real. But it's much appreciated. But there's one spot I feel is a good one for him if the Browns were to move on. And like you said, we're not saying we want this to happen or that it will happen. It's just that it could happen. And that is the Washington football team. They don't really know what they have in Taylor Heineke. He's good in spurts. He almost won for them against the Buccaneers last year in the playoffs, which would have been incredible. The Buccaneers obviously went on to win the Super Bowl. But I think he fits best there. He would have a dynamic weapon in Terry McLaurin. They're supposed to have a solid defense that will probably get fixed in the offseason. But it'd be a fresh start for him, fresh start for them. But that's a spot that intrigues me because they are looking for a quarterback probably. And again, not that Andrew Berry's getting rid of Baker Mayfield this year or even next year. For all we know, Baker's going to, play lights out, and if he doesn't get the extension, he'll get the tag. But Washington is really interesting to me if and when the Browns move on from Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, you see the other ones there as well, the Broncos, Saints, and Giants. The Saints are a team now without Sean Payton. They have to figure out a lot, and they are, I believe it's 68 or 70 million over the cap. So there could be some names that the Browns go and talk to the Saints about, because they're going to have to shed some salary coming up.
Absolutely. One of those names should be Michael Thomas, by the way. I know he hasn't played in about 2 years, a year and a half or so, due to an ankle injury. But if they can restructure his cap or somehow package Jarvis Landry and send him there for Michael Thomas, that's a move I'd make.
That's exactly where I was going with that. Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily. Eddie, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it. Eddie McDonald, thanks very much.
I appreciate you having me on.
All right, Eddie McDonald, make sure you read him, Dog Pound Daily. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guest, Jeff Phelps from 92.3 The Fan and Cavs pre, post, and halftime. And Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. That is tomorrow, 4 o'clock, right here on Sports for CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.